Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
This lady has performed on Broadway. She is an active director as well, adjunct faculty at Vanguard University. Nikki Snelson, I'm going to get it right at some point by adding the S. How are you today?
You got it right. You got it right. I'm so well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, congratulations on all your success. 30 plus years as an educator, choreographer, dancer, creator, etc. from Broadway. Got tired of the snow, came out west. Nothing was going on for the longest time. And here all of a sudden, Southern California is starting to have this thriving theater scene.
It is. It's amazing. It's a metropolis of theater. When I first moved out I took a break from the Broadway scene in New York after I made my Broadway debut. And then when I came out at first, there was nothing going on. And now, 20 years later, I came out and there's so much great theater happening in the area. So I feel really blessed to be here right now.
I saw that you were in Tick, Tick, Boom, and I just saw it the other day at the Chance Theater over in Anaheim. Performances were fantastic. Hate the songs. Like if you like Rent, so like if you like Rent, you'll like Tick, Tick, Boom. If you hated Rent, you will hate Tick, Tick, Boom. But I was
a huge Rent fan, so I love it. Yeah.
But the performances were spectacular. So it was a 3-person story. Only 3 people in the story. Absolutely amazing with what they did with this tiny cast. Their voices are phenomenal. The setting was great. I just couldn't get into any of the songs. I was like, the songs, we'll put it on the side. We'll focus on the performances.
Yeah.
How do you, as not only as a professor, but let's actually get to this first. As a performer, you're in a show.
Yes.
And you get the solo for whatever song. Like it's your turn. And you absolutely detest the song.
Ooh.
How do you force your way to make it appear that like this is coming from your heart and these are your own words? I know it's acting, but I mean to trick yourself into it.
I have only had that experience once. I did an off-Broadway show and I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was, but I had to do a very tricky number. My number was kind of the 11 o'clock number and it was very racy and slightly inappropriate. And I just had to really try to put myself in the shoes of the character I was playing. Most of the parts that I've played, I love Tick, Tick, Boom. I loved Legally Blonde. Obviously, I did Anna Get Your Gun on Broadway. That's a classic. So it's hard to pick that kind of stuff apart. But when you are in that position and the material is not necessarily Chekhov, then you really have to kind of step back and go, okay, coming at it from an actor's standpoint, what does my character want? Who am I talking to? How am I going to get it? All the little acting beats that we learn at university, you kind of got to get in there and use those in those moments because you know that maybe that song that you're singing is not going to be entirely tangible or moving for the audience. So you have to do what you can do. We call it polishing a turd in the business. If you have a bad song and you got to polish it up, that's what we call it. So,
even if it's a song you hate, but it's not a turd.
Yeah, terrible, horrible.
No, because
but I love singing Come to Your Senses. It's one of my favorites.
All right, no, because I want to make sure, because like I'm sitting in the audience and I'm just like, God, I can't get into this song. And forgive me, I'm not trying to use the Lord's name in vain in this, but I was just like, I can't get into this song. But I was like, wow, this person's voice is spectacular. Yeah. So I'm focusing on their level of talent while trying to ignore the song itself.
Well, so Jonathan Larson, I was a huge Rent fan. I was one of those people that like stood outside the theater to try to get the tickets. I went to Adam Pascal's last show on Broadway. Somebody offered me $1,000 for my ticket and I wouldn't give it to him. So I was a huge Rent fan. And when we rehearsed for Tick, Tick, Boom, Jonathan Larson's parents were around a lot and his story is heartbreaking. He worked and he worked and he worked his whole life for this success that he never got to see because he died when Rent was in previews. So with that story kind of always in the back of our head doing Tick, Tick, Boom, it's very easy to access any sort of emotion that you need to play those parts.
I mean, the poor guy had a heart attack hours before the world premiere.
Yep, an aortic aneurysm. Yep. It was and he had been to the hospital the night before and they sent him home. So there was a lot. It was just devastating for everybody. But now his music and his legacy lives on in
Right.
Rent and Tick Tick Boom and the
And by all
movie
means,
and
please
all the
don't think I'm
things.
taking away from his talent level. The guy was extremely talented.
Oh no,
It's
God,
just
no.
something that doesn't resonate
No.
with me.
The songs in Tick Tick Boom are not quite as accessible or as mainstream as Rent. And if you don't like Rent, you probably won't like Tick Tick Boom. It's like some people like Sondheim, some people don't.
Right. You're an adjunct professor now at Vanguard University, a parochial school. It was the best way to put it. I mean, it's a religious school. I got my master's degree from there in theology.
I heard.
Yeah. And so how'd you find, like, you're doing Footloose beginning February 20th. We got to plug Footloose. You're directing Footloose, which is going to be a lot of fun. When you sit there and, the minister is the villain in Footloose.
Well,
Essentially.
That's not how we feel about it.
Okay.
We are trying to come at it. I get to come to Vanguard. I'm not there all the time. I get to come there once a year for the big musical. And I spend a few months with the students and we put on the show. And we're really, especially in today's political climate, we're really trying to see all people's point of view. So we're really trying to look at the people of Beaumont and especially Reverend Shaw and Vi Moore, his wife, as these people that have been through terrible trauma. They lost their son in an accident that probably could have been avoided, and that they now have this trauma in their life and they're doing the best they can to cope with it. And the best they can to cope with it happens to be this very interesting dynamic where they won't let people dance because they think it's a gateway to doing other things, which led down the path for their son dying. So in the end, I don't really think of him as the villain. There is a villain. Chuck Cranston, the boyfriend who beats up Ariel, kind of becomes our villain in that situation. But we are really trying to look at the show from all angles and all points of view and know that, Ren is coming from the big city. He's never experienced anything like this. He has just lost his father, who left him and his mom in a lurch, and he gets to this town, and everybody in this town has trauma, and has kind of shut off all their emotion and all of their culture because of it. And in the end, they're able to come together and celebrate life and move on and move forward. So that's how we're trying to frame it. And our cast is doing an amazing job of taking that story on the ride with me.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. But there are, like Chess happened with American Theater Company, Susan's company. She's also the department chair at Vanguard. When you have shows that have, say, infidelity or, death or murder, whatever it is, how do you find the balance of the secular aspect of the story and allow it to translate to a parochial school without being sacrilegious?
So it's interesting because I have been lucky enough to do several shows. I think this is my 6th show at Vanguard. And when I'm doing a show like Beauty and the Beast, it's very easy to not push any buttons and make sure that everyone is happy. But I did Mamma Mia there a couple years ago, which, at its core is about a woman who has a child and she's not sure which of the dads the child belongs to, one of 3 different men. And so, we walked a line on that and made sure that we were just, again, doubling down on the story and telling the story of a woman who is, she feels like she may have made some mistakes in her life, and she feels like she has some penance to pay, and she feels like she has, some decisions to make. And if we come at it from looking at everyone is the hero in their own story, and everyone does things for a reason, then there isn't too much that we can do that would be so offensive, to be honest. I mean, we're not doing Chicago, we're not doing Cabaret, we're doing shows with a lot of beautiful heart and beautiful relationships and beautiful characters. So I think, every once in a while we'll have to be careful of how short a short is, or, how sassy a dance is. But other than that, we stick to the script and we just try to come at every character with grace and love in our heart.
Right, because that's always something that's interesting in the fact of finding the balance between, what is riding the line of secularism versus what's riding the line of a Christian perspective, and then allowing the two to cross over without being sacrilegious to one or
Right.
converting the other without staying true to the essence of what the story was.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I were doing Mamma Mia at a regional theater as opposed to Vanguard, maybe the dancing would be a little bit sassier. Maybe, the costumes would be a little bit more skin showing. But these are easy adjustments without, we would certainly never want to disparage the writing. The writers made all the choices in these plays for very specific reasons. So we stay true to the script and we make whatever small, tiny adjustments that we can to the content, that so as to keep it Vanguard appropriate. But we tell the story.
Now, take us through the transition of going from a stage performer, singing, dancing, acting,
Yes.
into the direction side,
Mhm.
because there's that crossover of my knee gave out at 23 and I've torn my LCL and MCL at the same time. And now I kind of
Oh
have
my
to,
goodness.
I can't make those high kicks anymore.
Well, knock on wood, that has not happened. Oh my gosh, knock on wood, knock on wood. But I was performing. I made my Broadway debut when I was 19 years old. And I was performing. I actually am still performing. I did a play last year. But all of a sudden, I realized I was in my early 30s and I was still standing in front of a table of people and kind of beholden to their vision. And I realized that I wanted to be beholden to my own vision. I wanted to start creating my own destiny, creating my own path, creating my own future. And sometimes when you're, I don't mean to say just an actor, but when you're acting solely, you really are at the whim of what the director wants or what the writer wants. Whereas if you take your career into your own hands and you start writing or you start directing, you start producing, then you have a little bit more say in what happens to you. I did after Legally Blonde on Broadway, which was kind of the thing that I'm most known for, I did a musical called Wonderland by Frank Wildhorn, where I was the original Mad Hatter. And I did all the out-of-town tryouts. I did all of the workshops. And then when they went to Broadway, they decided to rewrite the part and cast a very different person in the role. So I had done all this pre-work, and then it got to Broadway and they replaced me. And it was devastating. And I just woke up one morning and thought, am I going to do this for the rest of my life, where I'm going to ask other people to tell me my self-worth?
Very much like
So
the last
very
showgirl.
quickly after that, and this, yes, it is. It's very much like that. So pretty quickly after I made that kind of realization in my head, I got a call from people that I knew in Singapore that they needed somebody to come to direct a show. Now, I had thought I would probably direct and choreograph at some point, but it was not on my mind then. And this opportunity arose to go to Singapore for 3 months and direct a show. And I said, you know what? This is the universe telling me I need to go do that. And I did, and I loved it. And it was, it's ironic because then, when you're directing the show, you're in charge, except for the producers. You get to put all the pieces together. And I felt drunk with power. And I thought, oh, good. I really feel like I'm going to be at the driver in my career now. And it's ironic that then you get to opening night and you've done all this work and you've made sure the costumes are exactly what you want them to be, and the sets and the actors and all the songs. And then you get to opening night and you have to let it go and you have to give it over to the actors, who in the end have the final say on how it goes up on stage. So it's actually a double-edged sword, because you got to let your baby go then on opening night and hand it over to your wonderful actors. So, but I've been super lucky since doing that. I've been pretty consistently working, choreographing and directing,
Well,
and
that's
never looked back.
fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
So may I ask you a personal question, if that's okay?
Oh, okay.
Nothing risque. All right.
Okay.
But if you have children, all right, and I don't know
Yes.
if you do or not, all right?
I do.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So if your son or daughter
Yes.
wasn't interested in the arts, and it's like,
Okay.
You're like, we're going to the theater, and the kid all of a sudden goes, well, I want an abacus for Christmas because I want to do math the old-fashioned way. I don't even want to use a calculator. I want to do
Yeah.
calculus using an abacus. how as that performer, being the extroverted
Mhm.
person, goes in and handle the extroverted child or the introverted child.
So it's interesting. I have a 6-year-old who is wild and I think probably is going to want to do theater. However, I have not put him in yet because, you know, the journey on the stage is a long one. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And if he does want to be theatrical at some point, I want him to be the one to say, can I please be in this show? He comes and he sits at my rehearsals and he gets really excited about it. And you can tell he thinks it's pretty neat. But for me, as long as he's passionate about something, whether it be algebra or, riding horses or playing soccer or being an astronaut, whatever it is, I'm going to be thrilled because I know when I was growing up, when I finally found this passion, all of a sudden everything fell in line. And all my friends that were kind of falling prey to peer pressure and drinking and smoking and doing all this stuff when they were teenagers, I had a goal and I was focused on that goal and I knew what I wanted in my life. And I never succumbed to any of that because I was so passionate about what I do. So I just hope that he can find whatever it is that he's passionate about, whatever it is. I would hope that he would have a respect and an understanding for the cultural arts and want to go to the theater with me, but if not, I guess we'll have to do what he wants. He's really into art right now. He made this lizard in art class. He's doing sculpting
Wow.
right now.
Okay.
First grade. Not too bad, right?
That's impressive.
So yeah, that's what he's into.
All right. And then now here's the dirty question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. If there is one musical that you would be thrilled to never have to either see or perform again,
Okay.
what would it be?
Okay.
That's the dirty
To
question. I know that's the dirty question.
not see.
Like if you're like,
Oh my
if it just went
gosh.
away, like everyone forgot about it and just it's your sigh of relief of, oh, thank the Lord, this is gone.
Oh my goodness. What would it be? What would it be? I I don't love 9 to 5, the musical. I love the movie. It's so funny. It's interesting too that we're doing Footloose right now. A lot of times the musicals that came from movies or content before don't necessarily translate on stage, which is wild. Or they tried to make it too different than the movie, and in turn, it doesn't really work for me. Something like Grease. I'm about to direct Grease, and we're trying to bring it back closer to the movie than to the musical because the musical is very different than the movie, and the movie is what's beloved. So I find the things that I see on stage that drive me a little crazy are the ones that have taken big swings to be so far different from the source material, and the source material was pretty magical in the first place. So I guess I'd say 9 to 5.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
What's yours?
So let's see. So movie musicals I don't like because they terrify me.
Okay.
All right? And I'm not the biggest horror movie fan. So the combination of the two, if it's a movie musical, I hope never to see either Rocky Horror or Sweeney Todd again.
Sweeney Todd. Okay.
Because
Okay.
it's the combination of the movie and the musical, right?
Okay. Fair enough.
If it's stage performance and also the movie, Grease. Because I hated the movie, and then someone's like,
I did. Okay.
yeah, and then they're like, you have to see, because the movie was terrifying. The movie scared the hell out of me. And then, someone's like, oh, the stage performance is different. And then I saw that and I was like, if I never hear Grease Lightning or Summer Loving again in my life, or this hand jive song or whatever, I was just like, no, I'm good.
I'm doing Grease at the Moonlight. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible.
Listen,
You have to come.
I'm sure you're going to put on a fantastic show, but I will bring my headphones and be listening to something else while watching the performance.
Oh my gosh, well,
like I'll just be taking them out every once in a while. Oh, they're singing great, and then just
So about Grease, this is actually so funny that this came up. When I was in 3rd grade, I got violently ill, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me for weeks. And my mom started bringing VHSs home from the grocery store for me to watch while I was sick in bed. And one of the first ones she brought home was Grease 2, which is a cult classic, but also not brilliant filmmaking. I was obsessed with it. I wanted to be Stephanie Zanoni. I wanted to climb that ladder and sing Cool Rider. So I became totally obsessed with it. And my mom was like, well, if you like that, you should probably see the first one. And then, of course, I was doubly obsessed with that. So Grease has been in my life for a really long time. I've always loved the movie. I think it's sort of a comfort to me because I was so ill when I saw it at first.
Right.
So I'm anxious to stick my teeth into that too. I'm excited.
Listen, Grease 2 was the launching point for Michelle Pfeiffer, so
Listen, it worked out well for her.
you know, it got her Scarface and then everything from there.
I wanted to be her. Come on, she was the most beautiful thing ever.
Okay, so will you put on Grease 2 as like a bonus?
If I can play Stephanie's, which I think I might be a little long in the tooth for at this point, but I would love
Don't
to
worry,
put
so
on
was
some
the
sort of-
original cast of Grease.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I heard that maybe they did it at Rockwell Table and Stage. They did a Grease too, which I would have loved to have seen. I have fond places in my heart for it.
Nikki, Footloose is premiering on February 20th at Vanguard University. Opening night is looking like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a theater house that carries roughly about 140, 150.
It's a very small house. Yeah.
But there's going to be a live band. It's going to live accompaniment. It's going to be fantastic in that regard.
We're going to be surrounding you. There's going to be action all over it. This cast is unbelievable. I have to say, I'm a busy girl. I do a lot of shows. This cast, something about the energy in this cast, and the casting is all so perfect. Each person that's playing their part fits their role so perfectly, and they are working so hard. People are flipping and singing high cues and spinning around. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Is it going to be like an opening night gala or after party or something that's going to take place?
I mean, we can go to Yard House, but no, there's always kind of a gathering out in the courtyard afterwards. But opening night at Vanguard is usually very exciting because not only is it, friends and family, but a lot of the alumni from the theater program end up coming. And so it's kind of a rock concert.
Okay. There's going to be any performances in the courtyard? Someone's going to bring an acoustic guitar or something?
I mean, maybe I'll burst into song. We'll see. But only Grease songs. So
okay. Just for me, I appreciate that. Just Grease and Rocky Horror. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, hilarious.
Nikki Snelson, thank you so much for your time. Where can we find you if we want to connect with you, find out more about Footloose, the program itself at Vanguard, and what else you got going on?
Everything is on nikkisnelson.com, all the shows that are coming up. If you want to look up stuff about Footloose specifically, go to the Lyceum Theater at Vanguard University. And I've got a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm doing something in Rhode Island at Theater by the Stars. I'm doing Grease at Moonlight. So come check them out.
Congratulations, Nikki Snelson. Congratulations on being an adjunct professor as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Robert. We can't wait to see you.